Welcome to part one of the 2024 Milken Global Conference Conversation on Transforming the Future of Work. I'm Jonathan Capehart, Associate Editor at The Washington Post and anchor of MSNBC's The Saturday Show and Sunday Show. And joining me on stage is the 57th governor of the great state of New York, Kathy Hochul. Governor Hochul, welcome.
Thanks, Jonathan. Great to be back.
So before we start, a news of day question for you. We would love to get your reaction to Columbia University announcing this morning that it will replace its university-wide commencement ceremony on May 15th with smaller scale, school-based celebrations.
Jonathan, thank you for raising that. It's something that I find disappointing, and I'll tell you why. One thing I do not want to do is have the lives and the families and all the young people who've worked so hard disrupted. I wanted them to have the benefit of walking across the stage. They earned it. And this is a testament to the resiliency of our education system, that we can allow these norms to continue without interruption. I had sent a letter out to all the colleges in the state of New York. I said, my team will help you with security plans. We'll help you manage this, but let's not let this get out of control and deny these students this right. There will be smaller graduations. Right. It's not going to be the large one, but I spent the morning calling. We talked to NYU. I talked to Cornell. The city colleges as well as SUNY colleges. Everybody I called said they're going to continue as planned with graduations because that's important. We have to restore some sense of normalcy. We have to, work around the chaos and the people's legitimate right to protest. But when that right to protest crosses the line into stopping others from their rights, and then we have to get involved. And so this is something that we're managing hour by hour in the state of New York, and we'll get through the commencements, and then we'll see what happens over the summer and the fall.
Now, real quickly, when we were talking backstage, you made a very interesting connection between the protests on campus, not just in New York, but around the country, and the implications that might have for the workforce, for the future of work. Talk about that.
I think about the future of work all the time because we're working very hard to position New York State as every employer will come there and find the most highly educated, most diverse workforce in the country. So that is job number one for me. And I'm thinking about any barriers to that. And I'm just observing the campus environment, not on all campuses, but certainly on many of the Ivy League campuses. And I think people in this room, many of them are Ivy League graduates. In 5, 10, 20, years, these young people being educated today in this environment will be sitting in your seats. Will what's happening now during their formative years, when they are supposed to be hearing different points of view and understanding and developing respect and collaboration, will any of that be affected by what they're seeing going on campus right now, whereas unlike protests of the past, 1968 or, some of the protests I did on a college campus opposing apartheid in South Africa, that was never a student against student. That was, we're against our government, this policy, our administration. I never saw the level of hatred in some cases from one student to the other because of which side of the issue with Israel and Gaza they're on. These are people who should be developing collaborative skills now so they can go into a workplace and understand that's how we innovate new ideas, that's how we work, that's how it all functions. And these may be just isolated incidences, but as a leader, I have to pay attention and make sure that the real purpose of higher education, which is supposed to be transformative, is really being implemented, not hindered by what's going on. Just a quick case study. I'm from blue-collar family up in Buffalo, New York. My dad worked at the steel plant. I went to Syracuse University. Met the first Jewish kids I'd ever seen. A lot of them at Syracuse University became my friends. We worked together in student government. My friends, black friends, brown friends, Latino friends, we all came together. I even had an Iranian roommate the first year, not far from the Iranian hostage crisis. We all worked together and became friends and left, and many of us see each other in our workplaces later. So I don't want to have this moment in history diminish people's respect for each other, appreciation for diverse voices from everywhere. And this is the moment where I'm very cognizant of that and the effect it could have on the long-term workforce. That's just an observation.
All right, so excuse me, let's get into the nitty-gritty about what you're doing in New York State and trying to transform the future of work. And I want to hit on 3 things in the 11 minutes and 45 seconds that we have. The first one is AI. Talk about your newly announced Empire AI Consortium and how you hope it will make New York become a global leader in artificial intelligence.
Jonathan, I don't hope, it will. We are very confident that what we're doing in the state of New York, and this idea came from Tom Secunda at Bloomberg, one of the founders of Bloomberg. We sat down and had breakfast in October in New York City, and he says, I have this idea that what is happening, the power of supercomputing right now is in the hands of the large private companies. What if we created a consortium that opened up all the potential of AI to larger groups, such as college campuses? And he committed that he'll help me find the private sector dollars. I have $125 million of commitments. I said the state's in. We supported $275 million to go toward this initiative. Various universities, Cornell, NYU, University of Rochester, RPI, and our state schools all have bought into this. So now what we have is the money to build a phenomenal supercomputer that is going to be accessible to researchers in New York, college students, will attract more federal grants, and this is how we lay down the mark. No state has done this. And in fact, I talked to a lot of other people who said, I wish my governor had thought of that first. I said, no, this is New York. We like to be first. With all due respect to people from other states. It's sort of our attitude. We will be the best, we will be the first, and I want others to follow, because right now we have, young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges. I've created this governance board, this advisory committee. Our CEO is Arvind Krishna, who is the CEO of IBM, very well-established legacy industry. The co-chair is Tamika Barrett, who's the CEO of Girls Who Code. Why did I do that? Because I want all those young girls to know that there's a place for them in this emerging technology. So this is how we make it more equitable, make AI equitable for all in the state of New York. And I want other states to follow that. That's just the larger framework. Got it through the legislature. Can't always do that very easily, but it's a huge commitment. But that supercomputer is being built, and we're going to get it done.
In one of the campuses, I can't believe you didn't mention this, was on Buffalo. Yes. Your hometown. Okay, the second of 3 fronts I wanted to touch on is semiconductors. The president announced last week that upstate New York will be designated as a national workforce hub. What exactly does that mean, and how does the company Micron Technology factor into this? Micron
is a brilliant case study on how a state like New York can lure a company that could have gone anywhere in the world. They manufacture memory chips, and they have facilities down in South Asia. So to bring them back and have them expand here, first of all, I want to commend President Biden and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer for the CHIPS and Science Act, because that had to go first. That's how we make sure that we manufacture these critical parts to everything that matters to you. Everything that you touch is now driven by chips, your vehicles, your digital devices. And we saw what happened during the pandemic. When the supply chain dried up, they couldn't build vehicles in Detroit. That's the ripple effect. So we said, we want to make sure that we're no longer dependent on foreign-made materials, supply chain, starting with chips. So the president laid out that goal. But they could have gone in any state in America. What brought them to New York? Well, I'm very competitive. I decided that if we had something of a huge scale, a $10 billion green chips initiative, that I could match what the federal government did. In fact, we surpassed them. They did $6 billion. The state of New York did $7 billion. And so we now have the resources to draw a company like Micron with 50,000 jobs. I get so excited when I say that. That never happens in any states. 50,000 jobs, $100 billion of investment. But I had to promise them a few things. I said, I will give you the most highly skilled workforce. I brought together a consortium of all of our top engineering schools in the state. I said, you need to help me deliver the engineers that they're going to need. But I also told them, in return for all this, everything's going to be sustainable. You're going to follow our green standards. You're going to build childcare. How are we going to get more women in the workplace? I had to leave a job I loved with the Senator Moynihan a long time ago because I didn't have any childcare. They are literally right now already in the process of building an on-site childcare center so they can make it easier. And they're also investing in the local YWCA. One more thing they're doing. This is what every company should be paying attention to. They also are in this for the long term. It's a 20-year build-out. They want to make sure that the workforce in that Syracuse, upstate New York area is highly trained. Working with the teachers union, company working with the teachers union, Randy Weingarten. We've innovated a way to have all the K through 12 classes in that 9-county region being taught more intense coding. They're going to be learning more about STEM careers. They're going to be trained differently than other kids around the state are as a pilot program, because we want to make sure that children growing in that area, and it's a high poverty area. Some of the highest childhood poverty rates in the country are in upstate New York. I'm not proud of that. But how we change that dynamic, we go into the cities, we get kids in these training programs, we get them excited in college. So that's how we're building the workforce of tomorrow for semiconductors, and also this money from the federal government. We're matching. We're building industry centers all across the I-90 corridor in upstate New York, because I grew up when all the businesses were leaving. Bethlehem Steel left town, my town collapsed. I want to make sure we diversify enough so whatever happens to one will not affect the success of the rest of the state. So that's what we're focused on.
Mm-hmm. And then the third front involves healthcare. You said last month, and I'm quoting, "No one should ever have to fear seeking care because of the costs it will impose or time missed from work." You went on to say, "From supporting pregnant moms to reducing insulin costs, we are taking action to ensure New Yorkers can access the care they need." Now, some folks in the audience might be thinking, well, that's just common sense. But how will doing all of these things transform the future of work?
Work has been transformed already, and I'm not saying in a positive way, and let me start with this. If anybody in February of 2020 said that their boss was going to allow them to work remotely 1 day a week, a month, they would have thought they worked for the nicest boss in the world, right? I mean, oh my God, what are you talking about? You're going to trust me to work on my own? Who does that? You don't have to be watching me? You're trusting me? And all of a sudden, 5 days a week, like, what do you mean I have to come in once a month? What are you talking about? So it's been transformed. Is it for the better? The flexibility is great for families. Count me in for that. I think that's fantastic. But are we getting the creative collisions that would happen organically, not on a scheduled Zoom call, where two people come together and say, hey, I was just thinking about this, even though we don't work in the same area. Well, what if you did this and I did? That's what I'm afraid is missing, because that's what we're known for. New York State and the United States of America, we're known for innovation. We just have the smartest people to think great thoughts. And that's how we make them happen. We commercialize them. And the next thing you know, we have billion-dollar companies. So I am concerned about that, but companies need to be paying attention to the family needs of their workers. Worker retention is everything. You've invested in people. You don't want to have chronic turnover. Help people with their mental health challenges. I'm telling you, the kids coming out of high school and even college today, they are still affected by the pandemic, the isolation, how they had to have social contact, human contact replaced with social media, and they went deeper and deeper into a dark place. That's the workforce that is emerging for our employers of today. Help them with mental health. We're making sure that every single school in New York State has mental health professionals, grade school on up. You catch the problems earlier, they won't have to spend a lifetime trying to seek help. You mentioned child care and taking care of our moms and babies. Maternal mortality, infant mortality in the United States of America is disgraceful compared to the rest of the world. We all need to do something about it, and employers have a role to play. Make it easier for moms, expectant moms. State of New York is going to be the first state in the nation that now requires that there be time off 20 hours during a pregnancy for moms who can get prenatal care. Those prenatal appointments are critical to the mom's health and the baby's health. But in New York, when people work a low-wage job, you're trying to decide, am I going to take time off work, take my personal time, or if it's a minimum wage and you're working at a McDonald's, I can't lose that money. So we're putting the responsibility on employers because it's an investment in their workforce as well. They need to see that, the mental health, the physical health, the short time that your families are going through child rearing. They could be your employee for 30 years. This is a short time where there's a little bit of disruption, but believe in your employees, take care of them, and they'll return it with creativity, innovation, and help you with your profitability.
All right, Governor, we have 90 seconds. 90 seconds. What do you want to leave this audience here in this room, and who are also watching perhaps a live stream? The number one issue you want them to take away when it comes to transforming the future of work?
Lean into it. This is an exciting time. This is what we are known for. The rest of the world watches for us to innovate. And whether it's clean energy jobs and offshore wind, where we're building institutes in the state of New York to train people how to do this for the future, the green jobs, the semiconductors, AI, we are at a transformational moment in our nation's history as we seize these new revolutions and capitalize them. But if we don't bring the people at the bottom up with us and leave it to people who have the benefit of an Ivy League education, then this haves and have-nots will only grow bigger, building resentment. So let's make sure that people at the lower end of the spectrum get a hand up, get into these great paying jobs, and it's upon all of us, government and employers, to make that happen. That's how we change society.
See, this is why the governor is a great governor. She, unlike most politicians, she didn't chew up the clock. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York, thank you very much.
Thank you.